Shoesmith. Mike Shoesmith is the executive editor of PNN News and Ministry Network, and he's a syndicated blogger and an author, and he is a licensed private investigator out of Canada as well. I know you're all over the United States, and you're all over Canada all the time, Mike, and all of the business that you do. I know right now you're in Fort Pierce, Florida, which is the same state I'm in, but a long way from me. I mean, you're 10, 12 hours away by drive, but it's good to have you. Good to have you. Did you happen to hear the last segment when I was doing that recap? And if so, did it make sense? And if not, oh well.
Yes, I did, and very well done. By the way, if the listening audience doesn't believe that a sovereign government can or will fake create a birth certificate, wait until you hear this story.
Okay.
This thing out of Ukraine, Carl, is absolutely shocking, okay?
It is.
I followed this actually live as it was happening, okay? So I'll break down the timeline for you. On Tuesday, a famous Russian journalist named Arkady Babchenko, I'll just call him Babchenko from now on, he was found by his wife on the front stoop of their residence, dead, full of bullets, riddled with bullets, shot in the back, dead on the front porch of their residence there in Ukraine. So he had fled Russia, and he was now living in Ukraine. And his wife finds him dead on the back stoop of their house, front stoop. I'm not really sure, but just outside of the door to their residence, dead. This guy was dead. Okay, they bring an ambulance. The ambulance rushes him to the hospital. He's pronounced dead on the way to the hospital in the ambulance. Okay, this guy is dead. On Wednesday, now I listen to a lot of BBC, right, the British Broadcasting Corporation, just to get a more global perspective on the news, and they dedicated all day Wednesday to this guy's death. That's how famous this guy was. Okay, and they trotted out all the mourners, and they said his wife is inconsolable. They even brought his best friend live on the radio to talk about what an awesome guy this journalist was, etc. And even the foreign affairs or the foreign secretary for Russia, because now they're blaming Russia for this, right? They're saying the Russians have done it again. They've done it again. They've assassinated someone because this guy was very outspoken against Putin, right?
Right. I remember all of these headlines, brother. I followed the headlines and saw the same thing, but go ahead.
Right. So it's amazing. So this guy, Babchenko, he was an outspoken journalist against Putin, and the foreign secretary for the government, for Putin's cabinet there, he comes out and says, wait a minute, the Ukrainians, they need to investigate this because we were not responsible for this one. I mean, for this.
Yes, for this. I mean, for this. Yes. But we have been responsible for others. Go ahead.
Right. So anyway, so that happened. Tuesday, this guy's found dead. Wednesday, the BBC and many other outlets, by the way, they spend the entire day covering this thing, right? Mourning and trotting out his best friends and so on. And so that was Wednesday. Yesterday, this guy shows up at a press conference.
Yeah.
Babchenko guy.
Yeah.
He just walks into a press conference. Everybody's shocked by this. So what really happened here, Carl? What really happened here? What happened here was the Ukrainian government, they fake killed this guy.
Yes.
Okay, because they had some tips. They say they had some tips that there was a hit put out on this guy by the Russians, right? So the Russians had recruited some Ukrainian citizens to put a hit out on this guy and shoot him dead. So now we're talking about the government here, people.
I'm with you.
The government of Ukraine.
I think I know where you might be going with this. Go ahead.
The ramifications from this, the speculation we could draw from this is enormous.
Yes.
Because here we have a sovereign country fake killed a world-famous journalist. They said they were setting up a sting operation here to trap this hitman. But it's all complete nonsense. I mean, they had to fake kill this guy. In fact, the reaction here is actually priceless. Okay, but here we have this guy. Now, I think it's possible, Carl, that this guy wanted to fake his death, and which he succeeded in. In fact, his wife was even fooled by this, okay? I think it's possible that he might have wanted to fake his death And then once he succeeded in faking his death, he discovered there was no more room in Fuddyville, which you know, is a reference to Loretta Fuddy, who was killed. Some people say fake killed, because she may have been ready to spill the beans on the Obama birth certificate. She was the one who.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say she was the one that handled the birth certificate before it was supposedly delivered to the White House to be put on the White House. Yeah, allegedly.
Right.
Go ahead.
Allegedly handled.
Yeah.
So just a little backstory on that. You know, she was in a Cessna, which did a soft landing in the ocean in Hawaii, and it wasn't a plane crash. People, watch the video. This was a soft landing. They had engine trouble. It was a soft landing in the ocean. Everybody got out. They were all bobbing around in the ocean there, hanging onto the wing, waiting for people to come and rescue them. And Loretta Fuddy was in the group. We can see her clearly in the video images on ABC News. And you know, next thing you know, boom, she's dead.
The only one.
And there was reports of her popping up in Florida, actually. But we don't have time to get into that. But the reaction here is quite shocking, because Frank Gardner, who is a BBC security correspondent, he says there can be few more glaring examples of fake news than the deliberate misreporting by a sovereign government of a prominent journalist's death. Relations between Russia and Ukraine are at an all-time low following Moscow's annexation of Crimea. And he said this staged event, this non-death, will inevitably muddy the waters. Russia already denies any involvement in the attempted assassination of its former spy. So now what do we believe? Do we believe anything Ukraine has to say about anything, Carl? Do we believe anything any government has to say about anything? When we look at MKUltra and when we look at
deep state, fake news, yeah, keep going, yeah.
the Manhattan Project. When we look at the moon landing from 1969, people are trotting out evidence that whole thing was fake. I'm not saying it was, and I'm saying it's possible that it was fake. Why? Because it was a space race with the Russians.
Yeah.
I mean, the commonalities here are intriguing. They're intriguing. All I'm saying is it's very intriguing, because we had a government a couple of years ago. You know, when they allegedly went to the moon, they brought back moon rocks, and there was a government. I wish I could remember the government that, because they handed out moon rocks to different governments around the world. It might have been a Scandinavian country, and they ended up doing analysis on this rock, and it turned out that it was just a rock that is commonly found on Earth. It didn't even come from the moon.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
right. There's all this evidence that they faked at least the first moon landing. And when we take a look at how a sovereign government like Ukraine has actually now been caught and admits to fake killing a journalist, and then we look at all these other incidences and we go, wait a minute, we know that MKUltra was a government-funded mind control children. We know the Manhattan Project involved tens of thousands of people, but only a small handful of people knew what was really going on. We know this and that and this and that. How do we trust anything the government is doing? And including all of the evidence that we now know that somebody in the high levels of government faked Barack Obama's birth certificate.
Right. And, you know, Mike, and I've been asking people for the last, ever since Trump's gone in office, for example, with all that we now know about fake news, the CIA corruption, the FBI corruption, the DOJ corruption, the spying in a campaign, FBI spy implants in the presidential campaign, illegal FISA warrants, fooling judges, tons of fake documents, fake dossiers, lying to Congress under oath. Why do so many people still have a hard time thinking that perhaps a 5-year forensic criminal investigation by the fourth largest sheriff's office in the nation, backed by 2 international document examination companies that are used by courts and law enforcement all over the world, why do we think that's wrong? That it couldn't be that the government faked Barack Obama's birth certificate. That can't be. But everything else, CIA, deep state, spying, FISA warrants, all that did happen, and now we know. I mean, people need to get a grip on these things, Mike.
I just want to close out this segment by saying, question everything, especially from people, as my friend Brandon Gallups always says, from known liars.
Thank you.
Always
Thank
question
you.
known liars.
Let's take a break and we'll come back.
American Survival Wholesale is proud to sponsor this ministry and their efforts to shed light on the issues that face our nation. As a veteran and Christian-owned and operated company, we support the freedom to express these Christian principles. We all understand the importance of being prepared. After witnessing the devastation of Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and the wildfires that affected so many, please support this ministry by clicking on the link below and check out the amazing alt media package for our listeners. Plus, if you use the promo code PNN Radio, that's PNN Radio, you will receive free shipping, a savings of up to $200. Just click on the link below, but please do it today. Your support means so much to this channel.
The Satanists wanted to install their own tribute, a pagan idol, on the Capitol grounds, right next to the Ten Commandments.
Billions around the planet are witnessing a world in the grasp of sadistic spiritual darkness. This unholy alliance has infected our governments, our religious institutions, and our societies. The world appears to be unraveling. But can the evil behind these dark supernatural forces be defeated? Is everything playing out just as the Bible predicted it will in the final days? At last, you can know the answers to mankind's most urgent questions and learn your destiny among today's events in the new, unprecedented work taking the prophecy world by storm. Gods and Thrones, Nakash, Forgotten Prophecy and the Return of the Elohim by best-selling author, former decorated law enforcement officer, and senior pastor Carl Gallups. This changes everything. Available now wherever fine books are sold.